Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another weather forecast discussion, this time for April 18th, 2022. Now, some really wacky weather is unfolding right now across portions of the United States, and for some places, it just doesn't seem like spring at all. For instance, just outside my window is 4 inches of snow that has fallen over the past 12 hours. May I remind you all that this is the middle of April? Well, sooner rather than later, Mother Nature will, as the Storm Prediction Center has already issued severe weather outlooks for Friday. Will this continue into my birthday weekend? And what could we expect will be coming up later on in the video? But before we get started, thank you guys so much for tuning into the video today. If you want to help me get this video out to more and more people, please hit that thumbs up button down below. The more people hit it, the more we can get this out to more and more people on YouTube. Also, please be sure to copy this link and share it with friends and family on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram so that we can continue to spread our information onto other social media platforms. Subscribe if you are new and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date with all the latest information, as I will be uploading videos more consistently, more than likely from now all the way up until Friday, to keep you guys up to date with what the impacts are with this severe weather event could be. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the simulated radar here. This is what the radar could look like here in the future, and we're going to be using the North American model to kind of help us as to what's going on. Remember, the time is above us right over there in Eastern Daylight Time. You can take a look and see we have a bunch of snow that's starting to swirl on through with some rain at the southeastern portions of this just huge cluster of storms they're going to move on through. This is going to continue to linger on through, and portions of New England as well as the New York City, Long Island general vicinity is going to see a lot of that rain, a lot of heavy downpours more or less that are going to continue to linger on throughout much of the area. Some of upstate New York into portions of northern Vermont and New Hampshire, as well as into portions of Montreal and Ottawa could potentially see this stuff. Anywhere near the St. Lawrence River from Quebec City all the way down towards Lake Ontario could probably see some very heavy amounts of snowfall within this area. You can see if we zoom into the snow totals here, this is in inches, so not in centimeters, but you can see a lot of areas here along portions of south central Pennsylvania, which is where I'm located, ironically, all the way up into the higher elevations of the Allegheny Mountains, and then further up into northern Pennsylvania. We could be seeing about 1 to 3 inches of snow, except for the higher elevations, which are in these purples and these pinks, into which you could probably see about 5 to 8 inches, maybe even an upwards of a foot of snow. And then as you get into portions of upstate New York, you can see how much more widespread these pinks are, which indicates about a foot of snow to maybe even higher than a foot of snow in accumulation within some of these areas. And then once you get up in towards Ottawa and Montreal, even all the way up in towards areas north of Quebec City, they could potentially see about a half a foot to a foot of snow within some of those areas as well. But then if you're in practically much of Ontario towards the Great Lakes and then even northern portions of Quebec, you're going to probably see widespread amounts of about 3 to 5 inches of snow, with some lower accumulations possible within some areas. So overall, you guys are probably going to be seeing some snow, unless if you're probably towards areas near Maine, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. You guys are more than likely just going to see rain. But as we backtrack here, you can see on the western portion of the United States in the Pacific Northwest, we have a new wave of rain and snow that's going to be moving on through here. A lot of strong gusty winds anticipated over here. From Monday night into Tuesday morning, we're going to consistently see a lot of rain and snow, especially for the higher elevations. You guys can see a lot of snow towards portions of British Columbia and Vancouver Island, that general vicinity, and then further down to as far north as the northern portion of California. That'll continue to move on through, and then that snow system, or at least storm system, is going to continue to move off in towards the central portions of the United States, as well as the prairies here of Canada. We can see a lot of lingering snow over here in the lower resolution North American model across much of the prairies, and this will basically congeal more and more and create a lot of, I should say, precipitation for portions of the upper Midwest into the Central Plains. We do have a 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale that day, though, but we will talk about it later on in the video. And that'll continue to move on through more and more until another system over here starts to move off in towards the Pacific Northwest, and that will be our new catalyst for our severe weather event, which will occur towards the latter stages of this week. But focusing on what's going to be happening here towards the central United States and even portions of Quebec, you can see the storm continues to move off further and further, and it seems like areas south of the Great Lakes is probably going to see a lot of rain. Areas north of that in towards areas near Ontario and Quebec, you guys are probably going to see a lot of snow, except for areas over here near the St. Lawrence River and areas near, I'd say, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, extending all the way up in towards Quebec City. You guys are probably going to see, for the most part, a lot of rain here on Thursday, so not really too much to be concerned with on that. But let's see what happens here with the storm on Friday. Let's kind of put in all the stuff that makes a severe weather event together. Let's see what makes this event tick, and to do so, we're going to start with the wind shear aspect of this. We're going to look at the 500 millibar wind shear, which is about 6 kilometers above ground level. And we can see here with our general flow of the wind shear, we have this big dip in our jet stream right here. This is called a trough, a big low pressure system that is starting to develop here. And we have a bit of a ridge in place, a lot of clockwise flow that is starting to develop over here because of that big high pressure system. It's going to be pretty warm for areas over here in the southern and southeastern portions of the United States for Thursday into Friday, more than likely continuing into Friday. But then as this continues to move on through, as our low pressure system continues to dip further and further, you can see we do have a bit of wind shear here that is moving from the south and west, actually south-southwest flow to the northeast, particularly some lighter amounts of wind shear possible. But we also have some stronger amounts of wind shear over here into portions of Oklahoma and Texas. So that is something to watch out for, even though the Storm Prediction Center has not issued an outlook in that general area. As a matter of fact, the Storm Prediction Center has issued an outlook over here for day 5. This is a 15% chance for severe weather across portions of South Dakota, extreme southwestern Minnesota into western Iowa, central and eastern Nebraska, as well as north central to central portions of Kansas. But I would not be surprised if Amarillo, Lubbock, even areas near Elk City in Oklahoma could potentially get some activity. Wichita Falls, Lawton, that general area is something to watch out for, I would say, for Friday as well. Let's look a little bit closer to the ground here and take a look at the 850 millibar wind shear, which is about 1 kilometer above ground level. And this is basically our low-level jet. This basically enhances our thunderstorms if we have some strong enough wind shear. And we do have some flow that's coming from the south to the north here, basically bringing a lot of this Gulf of Mexico moisture up into portions of the Central Plains into our traditional tornado alley. And you can see as we translate from Thursday morning into Thursday afternoon in the evening hours, you can see our wind shear really start to uptick here. We have a lot of wind shear coming from the south here, and a lot of very strong wind shear at that here. So I would not be surprised if there was some severe weather across some of these areas. We're moving off into Friday. We can still see that wind shear still is relatively consistent. We have our low pressure system that is starting to develop here, and we can have a bit of our triple point here. We have our warm front, our dry line, our cold front here, and that's the reason why the Storm Prediction Center has issued that outlook over here for the Central Plains. You have a lot of very strong wind shear values at our low-level jet, and it's right near where our low pressure system is, where a lot of vorticity actually is at. And speaking of vorticity, you can see there's a lot of vorticity here that starts to billow up more and more here in towards the Colorado Rockies, and that eventually forms off into a line right here. So a bit of our cold front action that starts to develop here, a lot of thunderstorms that could potentially form out along that general area. But there are some, enhanced areas of vorticity over here in towards portions of Texas as well. The northern panhandle could get some activity, and then as this continues to progress further and further in towards Saturday, we could potentially have some severe weather that could range from Iowa all the way down into portions of Texas as well. So we're going to have to see as to whether or not this could potentially be tornadic. I do think that Friday's event could be tornadic. It's just depending upon where the showers and thunderstorms could form, could be the determining factor as to where the tornadic thunderstorms could be. And so we're just going to have to watch out for this more and more. But from a vorticity factor here, we do have some of that, and vorticity do results into showers and thunderstorms. Now let's take a look at this step by step. So we're going to take a look at our moisture here, our dew points at the surface, and we're going to see how this all rises here. So we're on Tuesday. We start to move off into Wednesday. We have a lot of moisture that starts to rise, and then maybe a little bit of a severe weather episode that occurs over here in the portions of the Central Plains on Wednesday. We do have a 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale over there on Wednesday, so that is something to watch out for. And that's a nice little interesting event because that actually forms a little bit of a cold front. might have a little localized threat for severe weather over here to portions of central and eastern Oklahoma, as well as into southwestern Missouri. Maybe even portions of southeastern Kansas could get into the action as well. So that'll be something interesting to watch out for. Could potentially see a upgrade with that event there as well. Maybe a 2 out of 5 in the severe weather scale. Would not be surprised, especially with how moist the dew points are in towards portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, and even into portions of Texas as well. So something to watch out for with that. But then as this continues to progress, you see that moisture kind of linger and starts to build. We have a lot of moisture return coming from the Gulf of Mexico that is starting to rise further and further north. And then all of a sudden, boom, we have a lot of widespread moisture here ranging from South Dakota to as far south as portions of northern Texas. Not as much moisture over here compared to in some of the other areas. So I'm not anticipating this to be a super widespread event. All right, I'm not anticipating that every single area along the cold front is going to have some form of thunderstorm activity, but it's still something to monitor. If you can get moisture that develops into a specific area, then it can sustain within some of these areas, and that is something to watch out for. But you notice how far the moisture, recedes further north. You can see here on Saturday that moisture continues to be the case here. Potentially a severe weather event over here for portions of Minnesota into Iowa here on the 23rd. That's going to be something to watch out for as well. And then potentially some severe weather lingering into portions of the Central Plains. But I'm anticipating more of the tornado threat over here to be in portions of Minnesota and Iowa. So that'll be something to watch out for. Potentially more of an excuse for me to live stream on my birthday. Oh boy. But then as this continues to move off from Saturday into Sunday, you can see how things become a lot more linear. You can go back here actually a few frames and you can see our lingering cold front. All right, so this is our dry line right here. And then this is our cold front on the backside. And our cold front here, our secondary cold front, catches up with the dry line. And that, to me, means that things are going to be a lot more linear once things kind of merge in that instance. And as that continues to push on through, that does seem to be the case, to where there isn't really a whole lot of vorticity backing this up, a lot of low pressure spin to basically create a huge tornado threat, but a lot of widespread showers and thunderstorms that will continue to extend in towards the beginner stages of next week. Now, I know I just did a bunch of blabbering, so I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. Let's take a look at the convective available potential energy, how much energy there is in the atmosphere for thunderstorms that either form or sustain. So the more warm air rising and cold air sinking in the atmosphere, the greater displacement between the two indicates higher energy levels. So the higher the energy, the higher the probability for thunderstorms to either form or sustain. Now, you want about the greenish to greenish yellowish is where you would actually look for thunderstorms to either form or sustain. As this continues to progress, you see you actually have quite a bit of it here on Wednesday into Thursday, but then as this continues to move on through into Friday, well, the higher amounts of CAPE is localized over here into portions of Nebraska, South Dakota, into Iowa. So that's the reason why there's a severe weather risk over there. And then some lingering amounts of CAPE extending down further into portions of Texas as well. So that'll be something interesting to note as this continues to push on through into Saturday. You notice how there isn't really as much CAPE over here for portions of Minnesota and Iowa. So that's the reason why there isn't really as enhanced level threat for severe weather there quite yet. Things could still change, but there is still some lingering amounts of energy, especially over here along portions of that dry line. So that is something that we're going to have to watch out for. And then, of course, as this extends further into Sunday, I mean, you can see that there's barely any sort of energy left to where that giant cold front was extending through with our dew point map. So what about the thunderstorms? Where are they going to form and how can we see them? Well, let's take a look at the instantaneous flash rate, which basically tells us as to where lightning strikes could potentially strike. And usually you need thunderstorms to form those lightning strikes, so it's a good idea as to where they could potentially be. Now, let's take a look here from Thursday. We can see Thursday afternoon. All right, well, we got some showers and thunderstorms that form over here across the areas of Oklahoma into Texas. That is interesting to note. If you live in those areas, I would prepare accordingly. Let's move on through into Friday. You can see some prefrontal activity from that warm front. And then as we get into the afternoon stages of Friday, we have some showers and thunderstorms that form from New Mexico all the way into the northern panhandle of Texas and even into portions of southwestern Kansas. And then we also have some showers and thunderstorms that form over here along this giant Boeing segment over into portions of South Dakota, even into portions of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, could even extend as far north as portions of Minnesota as well. So that'll be kind of interesting there. And then as we move off, here into the early morning stages of Saturday. We have a lot more showers and thunderstorms that could be possible over here into portions of Minnesota as well. So something to watch out for with that. And then lingering along the dry line, you can also see some hailers more than likely possible across portions of Oklahoma down into Texas. So that'll be something to watch out for before finally our line starts to move on through. And that'll really be, the beginning of the week next week to where we can see an elongated line of gusty winds, maybe some spotty hail, and a chance for a tornado. But it's a little too far out for us to, tell as to what's going to happen with this event. It's really the event that's going to happen on Friday and Saturday that we're a bit more concerned about for tornadic potential. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video here today. If you did, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and turn on notifications. They go hand in hand together, and they keep you up to date with all the latest information that I will be providing on the channel that could be serious about weather. So if you are into that type of stuff, then please be sure to do so. Also, follow me on social media. Links will all be in the description down below. If you want to become a channel member, that is also in the description down below. Join my Discord server, yada, 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 all sorts of stuff. I will see you guys in the next video. So peace out, everyone.